what is the right way to commemorate a passing of a respected teacher, such as Thich Nhat Hanh? What can one do for the teacher?
Well, fortunately, we have examples of other teachers who passed away and how people deal with it to help us. As far as I know, in Vietnam, where his body is laid to rest, there's a lot going on there. Obviously, at the monastery, there are sessions of chanting, meditation going on all the time since he passed and before he passed away. And eventually, I think that will culminate in a cremation. But I think for most people, just in the same way as when Ajahn Mahabua passed away or Ajahn Chah passed away, you know, it's a stimulus to your practice. Now the teacher is gone, even more so we have to put effort into our practice. Even when you have a good teacher, you can become a little bit complacent because you kind of hand the energy of your practice over to the teacher. And, you know, while the teacher is alive, you feel good, you feel energized, it's easy to kind of drift along in your practice with the goodness of the teacher. Once they're gone, it dawns on you, doesn't it? You wake up and there's maybe some grief at the loss. And there's also the knowledge, oh, our teacher's gone. So Ajahn Mahabua, for one, would always say, now your teacher is gone, put more effort into your practice than before. Meditate more hours. Do more dana than before. Keep the precepts more strictly than before. Listen to the Dhamma more intently than before, because the passing of the teacher only reminds you of your own impermanence. You're not going to be here. Your teacher is already gone. Your opportunities to practice are gradually disappearing. So face the loss of your teacher by practicing more, and this will also help you deal with any sadness, grief. You know, grief at the loss of a teacher is quite normal. Even when the Buddha entered parinibbana, monks cried, and they said you could tell who was a sotapanna or an unenlightened monk because they tended to cry because they all loved the Buddha and wanted him to be around. Only the anagamis and the arahants didn't cry when the Buddha passed. So you will be feeling sad if you loved and respected a teacher, but you have to now channel that into something wise. So think of your teacher. If my teacher was still alive, what would he suggest I do? Would he want me to sit here crying? Or would he want me to carry on meditating more, learning the Dhamma more, putting effort into my practice, sacrificing more for the Dhamma because the teacher has passed away? So this is how we uplift our mind out of the grief and turn the grief and the loss into something useful and good. And that may take time, of course. You have to be patient with your own emotions, but it can be done because many people have done it. I've seen people do it all the time, coming out of the loss of the teacher, and then that spurs them on to practice harder, practice more. And that's what we have to do at this time.
Thank you, and Sadhu Longpo. Could I please now invite Vijay? Vijay, are you able to unmute yourself, please? Vijay?
Yeah. Hi, Ram. Cool. Hi, Ajahn. Ajahn Kalyano. Have a question. Post-enlightenment, so does the person get to choose to reborn, or does the person, karma drives the next decision, or what? Enlightenment is the ultimate goal, but what actually happens after? I think I'm not there yet, so to be honest, I just wanted to ask that question. And in Hindu world, moksha is the thing, and once the moksha person get to unite with God, and at some point, the person get to reborn again and redo the whole thing again. I'm trying to understand a bit. I'm not there yet. It's probably over my head, but yeah, just want to ask.
I missed the very beginning. Like, what is if you were to summarize your question, what is the actual question?
Okay. What actually happens post-enlightenment?
Post-enlightenment.
Yeah.
Well, Nibbana, we have a number of words just to help point to what it is or what it's not. So we call it the unborn, the uncreated, the unconditioned is one way of describing it. So the mind is totally free from the conditioning process for one who's reached Nibbana. They've seen all conditions, physical and mental phenomena, as impermanent, unsatisfactory, without self. So another way of describing Nibbana is emptiness, empty of self, empty of attachment, empty of suffering. Somebody's reached that, therefore, there's no more fuel for more rebirth because the mind is just empty. It's like, I guess you could say a car that's run out of fuel, the car doesn't move anymore. It just sits there. Maybe not a perfect simile, but there's no, what brings us to be reborn is the fuel to be reborn, which is craving, clinging. The technical terms are danha, upadana, bhava, jati. Jati is birth. So how can you see that in daily life? Well, watch the craving and attachment arising from moment to moment through your day. And that's like little moments of more birth. So as long as you still crave things, there's still desires you have, unfulfilled desires, whether you realize them or not, whether you recognize them as desire or not. Because some people kind of are living in a sort of space where they don't see desire and attachment. So then they assume they don't have any. So they assume they can do anything and maybe not even be reborn if they don't want to. But whether you recognize it or not, it'll be there unless you've actually abandoned it. And it tends to be sitting there deep in your heart until the conditions are right. Then it'll come out and surprise you. So one of the obvious times when people are surprised by the level of attachment they still have is close to death. If you ask doctors and nurses in hospitals and hospices, what happens when people get close to death? All kinds of very strong emotional reactions come out, what we would call craving and attachment. There's obviously the desire not to die, clinging to life. There's the desire based around unfinished business. So there's people we've been angry with. So there's a lot of anger towards certain people in the past that has been sitting in the mind. Now it's coming to the one is coming to the end of one's life. That comes up. And so unfortunately, a lot of people die quite angry and upset if they're still conscious. There's the desire for the next life for some people, what happens next? That can bring up fear, anxiety, or it can bring up a desire, I want a good rebirth, I want to be reborn in heaven. There's a whole range of emotional, mental experiences coming up as we get closer to death, which are an expression of what remains in our heart, our cravings, our attachments. And so if you practice meditation regularly, you're not waiting till the moment you're close to death. You're looking at them right here and now by developing more mindfulness, and you get to know things about yourself. And you say, oh, I still get angry over this person or this issue, or there's still all kind of ambitions and desires that are unfilled that are still obsessing my mind and filling my mind up, or I still have lots of fear and anxiety. This is what you start to learn about as you meditate. And so the idea is to start letting go of things way before you reach the end of your life. And the one who's reached Nibbana has basically done that so well that there's nothing left. No more clinging, no more attachment, no more attachment to the idea of self in the body, in the feelings, in the mind. It's all gone.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Ajahn. Ajahn Kalyano. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I now invite Bhavani? Bhavani, could you turn on your video and then unmute yourself? Yes, please speak.
Namaste, Ajahn. Am I audible, Ajahn?
Yes, please
Am I
go.
audible, Ajahn?
Yes, yes. Ajahn can see you. Please go ahead, Bhavani.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I have two questions, Ajahn. One regarding Samadhi and one regarding wisdom. The Samadhi, what is the purpose of Samadhi? Is it for developing only concentration, but wisdom also I can develop wisdom also while practicing samadhi? That is the one question. And regarding wisdom is, I feel that I can develop wisdom only by reading books, attending Dhamma talks, and through practice. What I'm thinking, is it correct, Ajahn?
Okay, these are very common questions, and they're good questions. They're important questions. The development of samadhi is obviously one factor of the Eightfold Noble Path, and it relies on all the other factors working together. So in the end, samadhi and wisdom are not separate things. They're two parts of the whole. Wisdom is beginning with samadhi, sammasankappa. Samadhi is particularly developing out of right effort, samma vayama, samma sati, samma samadhi. In order to see the truth, we need to calm down, stabilize the mind, develop this continuity of mindful awareness so that the mind is still and clear, so it can see the way things are. Because normally our mindfulness is not continuous, it's patchy, it's occasional. And so there's lots of movement in our mind. We're always thinking and doubting and wondering and liking and disliking, and our mind is full of different kinds of movement. So it's quite hard to see the deeper truths of things. So we need to develop more mindfulness. And as we develop more mindfulness using different techniques and our practice, samadhi arises out of that. And samadhi is really the continuous presence of mindfulness. And when samadhi develops for a brief period or longer periods, what we call the five hindrances have faded out because mindfulness is strong. The mind is in one place, in one object, merging with its object, absorbed. And that's a very useful thing to develop because it then allows wisdom to develop efficiently and well. Because if you turn to contemplate and observe the way things are, now that your mind is still, calm, steady, well, you can do that well, better than we can normally. So you can see this physical body as a collection of elements that arise, pass away, and there's no self in it. You can see your thoughts arising and ceasing and see that there's no real self in them. Feeling, you can develop clarity that feeling is impermanent, is not self. So wisdom arises together with samadhi. They're both essential for the practice. They both fit right there within the Eightfold Noble Path. But of course, at some points in your practice, you may be emphasizing one more than the other. So often in the beginning, we're doing a lot of mindfulness practice because we're not very mindful. So we do it a lot. Then we maybe develop more states of calm. Out of that, we see things and know things that we didn't see or know before. So wisdom develops. Doesn't mean to say that you're not getting wisdom from all the reading and hearing Dhamma talks. In the beginning, that's necessary. We all do it. And as I was saying, Ajahn Mahabua, Ajahn Chah, they studied a lot in their early years. But they also know or found out through experience that this is what we call sutta maya panya, the study of the suttas, the reading, the learning, the hearing Dhamma. It's limited in the way it can't really penetrate deep into our heart to remove greed, anger, delusion. We also have to develop bhavana maya panya. We have to develop states of calm, strong mindfulness so that we can investigate from this place of pure observation, rather than just thinking about Dhamma, which is how you start. And then you have to set aside the thinking and just learn and look as things are without getting caught up into all the thinking and comparing. So it's a progress from hearing Dhamma to actually seeing Dhamma, knowing Dhamma. And you do the best you can to improve on all fronts. So improving your knowledge of the Dhamma through hearing the Dhamma, of course, putting effort into developing mindfulness, calming the mind, stilling the mind, and then eventually contemplating and seeing the Dhamma for as it is.
Bhavani, you have a further question, is it? You raised your hand? Yeah, please.
Yeah, Ajahn, knowing the wisdom means understanding anicca, anatta, dukkha, and emptiness completely. That is the ultimate wisdom, isn't it, Ajahn?
I didn't hear your question fully, but you were asking, is seeing anicca wisdom? Is that what you were saying?
The ultimate wisdom means knowing clearly anicca, anatta, dukkha, and emptiness, isn't it, Ajahn?
Yeah, that's one way of describing it. Another way of describing it is the knowledge that removes suffering from your mind. That's another way of looking at wisdom. So how can you measure the success of your practice over the years? Are you better at letting go of the causes of your suffering and remedying your suffering? Do you have less suffering in your mind? Because the wise person doesn't let their mind suffer. Suffering may arise through ignorance, a loss of mindfulness, through wrong views, but as soon as they notice it, they let it go, let go of the causes. And the tools for doing that are development of the perception of anicca, dukkha, anatta. And they're like the tools of the practitioner. But really, you know, the proof is in the eating of the pudding. So are you suffering less in your practice, in your life? That's where those tools are going to be effective, and where you'll measure the success of your practice. You know, how good are you, how good are you, and how well do you let go of suffering in your mind when it comes up? You get angry because someone gives you a hard time, or you have pain in your body, so you have angry, negative thoughts. How quickly do you recognize your craving and attachment there? How quickly do you abandon them, free your mind from suffering? And using the perception of anicca, dukkha, anatta helps to do that.
Thank you, Sadhu Longpo. Can I please invite Dinah from Malaysia to please unmute yourself to ask your question? Dinah? Yes, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Longpo. Thank you for taking my question. Can you hear me?
I can. You're very crackly,
Okay.
but that's all right.
All right. Can you help us or help me understand? Do Nagas, Gandhabas, Yakas, and Kumbandas, do they get reborn as humans? Because when I read, a lot of the past lives are from animal realm and hell realm or devas. Okay, thank you, Longpo. Thank you.
Yeah, if you read the suttas and certainly in the commentaries, or if you listen to some of the teachers who do talk about Buddhist cosmology, beings in other realms, the human realm is the best realm for practicing the Dhamma. It's the desirable realm to be born as a human being. The Buddha was born as a human. This isn't to discount the reality or existence of other realms, such as Nagas, Yakas, Deva realms, hell realms, ghost realms. These are all mentioned in the texts, and people have meditative ability and they see these realms, they're aware of these realms. But in these other realms, very difficult to attain enlightenment, to progress on the path. Certainly animal realms, they can't develop vipassana or that kind of insight. Nagas can't do that. These other realms have to be reborn into a human realm to progress in their practice. So if you've already been born a human, it's like you've won the lottery already, even if you haven't won it yet. So I've never won a lottery. I don't think I have. I can't remember. Maybe I won a raffle when I was 10 years old or something, but I've never won a lottery. But being born as a human, you've won the lottery because you've got the opportunity to develop Magga Phala Nibbana in this life, with this body, with this mind, right here, right now. You don't need anything else. So sometimes Ajahn Chah will be quite kind of fierce and say, why are people talking about Nagas and Devas? They're born as a human. All they need to do is practice and they can attain Nibbana in the here and now. We've got everything we need. We've got the Dhamma, we've got our good health, we've got our body and mind. We're here, just do it. That isn't to say these other realms don't exist, but you know, how relevant are they to your practice? Maybe the main relevance is to be aware that, well, in the past, perhaps I have been an animal or a ghost or a deva. And, you know, how many more lifetimes do I have to be reborn and go around the cycle of birth and death, what we call samsara? Now I'm a human. I've got the best opportunity to listen to Dhamma, practice the Dhamma. I should devote my life to it now.
Sadhu Longpo. Longpo, can we take one last question?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Upu, can you please unmute yourself? And if you can, turn on your video.
Sadhu, 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 Longpo. I wish you for speed recovery from your illness. Can you hear me, Ajahn?
I can hear you. Please speak slowly and clearly.
Right, okay, Ajahn. I wish for a speed recovery for you, Ajahn, first of all. And I have a question. When people need help from us, we are helping them. When they are in trouble, or when they need some assistance from us, we are helping without expecting something. But when we are in trouble, or when we need help from those people that we have given some support during the difficult time, even though I am as a practitioner, or I'm practicing meditation and listening to Dhamma a lot, but still I feel sometimes the people who helped are not sometimes helping us when we need some support from them. So it is, I think it is not a good thing to think even. So how to overcome these kind of things? I'm actually thinking sometimes I try not to think in that way, but thoughts are coming. Why this person is not helping? Why he is not calling me and asking when I'm in trouble? So please help me to overcome that situation. I need to help people without expecting something. Thank you, Ajahn. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Correct. If you don't want suffering, then when you help people, don't expect anything, because you know some of those people you help will not be grateful and appreciative and will not come back and help you. Become a Buddhist monk and you'll really understand this point very quickly. The reason you suffer is because you still secretly are expecting them to help you when you're in trouble. You still have attachment. You are expecting something from them. So you have to work harder to let go of that expectation. And it's only really speaking, only the arahant can do that, because they have pure compassion, mindfulness, pure wisdom. They help people in so many ways, very subtle, very obvious, very direct, very indirect, but there's no expectation. So if an arahant helps someone and that person turns out to be totally selfish, ungrateful, never comes back to help them, they don't worry about it because they're already free from attachment. But we are not. So you have to manage how you help people and manage your expectations, and already maybe you have to prepare yourself. I'm helping this person, but whether they actually appreciate it, come back and help me later, I don't know, and I can't guarantee that. So you have to be aware. This is observing craving arising even as you do good. You get craving arise. You expect them to appreciate or come back and help you later. Just as a parent might with their child, just as a worker with their co-worker, just as a Buddhist with another Buddhist, in so many situations, this subtle craving slips in. You want something in return. Wherever there's craving, there'll be suffering. And if you don't want suffering, you have to catch the craving and really abandon it through developing enough mindfulness, clarity, wisdom to let it go. And so the help you give is just helping. If you're in a position to help, you've seen you have the means to help them, there's a need, you can help them, it's no real harm to you to help them. Well, if you considered it, then you can do it. But you don't expect anything in return, because that when in another time in the future you do need help, it may be someone else who helps you and not that first person. And that's all right, because karma isn't as simple and black and white as I help you, so next time I'm in trouble, you must help me. That's a very worldly way of looking at it. And people do it all the time, don't they? They put pressure on each other. Oh, I've helped you, now you've got to give me something back. But karma, if you understand karma and you understand the practice, it's on a much deeper level. You can afford to help someone who maybe will never help you, and there's no loss to you. You may actually gain enlightenment or the causes for enlightenment doing it. So practice catching that craving, the desire for something in return. Catch it, let it go before it causes you suffering. And trust in the wider process of karma. If you're genuinely helping people without seeking anything in return, when the time comes, there'll be things that come back to help you. You don't need to worry about that. You're practicing the Dhamma, that's the important thing. And if you need help, it comes good. If it doesn't come, then that's fine as well, because sometimes you can be in a situation where you need help and the help doesn't come, and you have to let go of something in that situation. Maybe you have to practice patience or live with your frustration that no one is helping you, and you see the suffering of that attachment and you let go. Every situation can teach you something. So really you have to revolutionize the way you're looking at things. Don't expect anything from anybody. Be totally independent. An arahant is like that. They don't expect anything from anybody. Having said that, with one condition, if you are helping someone and they really prove to be a bad person, not only are they not grateful, maybe they come back and harm you, or they go on to do a lot of unskillful things, or maybe that's something that qualifies how much you help them, how much help you give to them in the future. If you've helped someone up to a point and they're really not improving, and maybe they're getting worse, maybe they're even doing harmful things, well, maybe it's time to practice equanimity, upekkha, sit still for a while, because maybe there's not much you can do. And you find that all the time, especially in a monk's life. You see that, you help someone up to a point and then you realize they're not helping themselves. So the help you're giving is kind of fruitless. It can't go any further, so you have to stop. It's not because you don't like them or don't wish them well. It's simply they're not ready to help themselves yet, so you have no choice. So, it's like, for example, there are those people who you help to the point where they give up alcohol because it's destroying their life, their relationship, their job, everything, their health. So you get them to the point where they kick the habit, which is good. And you've helped them, which is good. Then you go away and that person then starts drinking again. And you're back to square one. And it's like, oh, let's put all that effort to help them give up alcohol and now they're drinking again. So maybe the next time around you say, I'm just going to leave you to it. If you can give up drinking, good, but it's your choice. That's just a simple example. How you help people, you do have to think about the wise way to do it. What's the right amount, the right way to help, the right amount. But as you do it, if you've decided to help someone, having thought it through, then let go of all desire for results, expectations of what they're going to do in return. Just let that all go. Then you'll be peaceful, you'll be free.